All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I know this has been sort of a busy week and some different things going on. So we are recording our presentation tonight, and we'll be posting that to our YouTube channel tomorrow. So I'm Matt Bailey. I'm a school counselor at Waynesboro High School, and I'm here with Kim and Whitney. If you want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Kim Wood. I'm the career coach here at the high school.
And I'm Whitney Leach. I am the intern in the counseling office this year, and I'm a grad student at UVA.
Awesome. So we're just going to talk about college planning and everything that you can do from right now as a junior going into senior year to get ready to apply to college and graduate and move on to the next better thing.
Okay, so I'm going to just briefly go through a couple of things that you might want to be thinking about as you're preparing for going to college and going into senior year. Some of this stuff I hope you've done a little bit of, but first step is to think about making a plan. And there's a couple different steps to that. You can do some of these steps by meeting with me or with one of your counselors, and whoever your counselor is. But the steps to making a plan for a college and career plan are doing some self-awareness and self-evaluation, things like doing assessments and talking to people about what you're good at, thinking about what you like, thinking about what you are good at and how they match. And then going into some career exploration and thinking about doing some research on that. Now that could be internet research. I think it's really great if you can have time to do a mentorship or a job shadow. If you don't have time to fit a mentorship in, doing things in the summer that will expose you to different types of careers is a really good way to learn more about careers. And just in general, getting as much exposure to different things as possible. The worst way to learn about careers is watching it on TV and the movies. Unless you're watching a documentary or something that's a little more informational, generally speaking, stuff you see on TV and the movies is not real. Career planning is a little bit different. That is making a plan and figuring out how am I going to get from point A to point B. And a lot of that has to do with the educational planning that we're going to get into in a minute. But the career planning is another step in thinking more about what if you want a certain career area, if you're interested in a certain career area or certain career pathway, what is required to get there. Also, things like how many jobs are there going to be in that area? How much does it pay? How much does it pay as an entry level? Just different things like that. It's important to think about these things now. A lot of people are like, oh, why do you expect an 11th or 12th grader to know what they want to do for the rest of their life? Well, first of all, the statistics are showing pretty much everyone in the last few years, 10 to 15 years, those folks are going to be doing a lot of changing of careers and changing of career pathways as they get older. And so what you're really thinking about is what you want to do as your first career. And it also helps students keep on track and stay engaged in school. There's a lot of data to show that. It can help develop interests. And as I was saying earlier, getting exposed to different things can help you learn about interests you didn't know you had, learn about things you didn't know about. Students don't know what they don't know. So unless their parents are doing it or someone in their family or they're seeing it on television or something like that, they don't know about it. If you have some career plans laid out and some research done, it's going to make some connections between why am I doing this, why am I taking these classes, and what your plans are for the future. And also, we're going to talk real briefly at the end too, being deliberate now can save you time and money by doing things like taking dual enrollment classes, taking classes at Valley Tech and getting certifications, or taking AP classes.
So, and educational planning, Ms. Wood touched on it a little bit, but this is sort of something that you'll definitely want to think about between now and graduation, is sort of what you want to do, what is the next step, where are you right now as a junior, what can we do over the summer? What can we schedule you for next school year to get you ready for going on to college for whatever you plan to pursue. You can talk with me or your counselor if it's one of the other two counselors. Mrs. Wood is available as well. But the educational planning is important, so you kind of have an idea of what you're getting yourself into, and you know, okay, if I want to be a veterinarian, I'm going to go for for high school, plus I'm going to go to college for 4 years, plus I'm going to go to veterinary school.
Whereas you have to like science and
right, yeah, and what type of things go into that is but beyond just working with animals, all the science and things that go into it. So every field kind of has that same kind of idea, and we can help you figure out what classes you could take now for a high school credit that might help you, as a college student, to have some of that information under your belt already. Planning for college, technical training, military training, apprenticeships, work experiences, we can help you figure out all those steps moving through senior year. So the timeline, so I think a lot of folks get worried this time of year of like, what should I be doing? Am I too late, to apply? Should I be applying to scholarships right now? So we kind of laid out some things to think about as you're planning for the rest of this calendar year, as well as next school year. First off, you want to do some research. Right now is a perfect time as we're ending the school year and you have a little bit of flexibility over your summer break. You can look on the amazing thing called the internet, and you can look at places like College Board, which has a ton of information about all different colleges. They have a search function that's really nice. I always point my students to that, where you can drill down from like 4,300 different colleges based on different criteria that you come up with. And we'll talk about those criteria coming up. So you definitely want to be doing some research and thinking about what could be a good fit for you. Spring, summer, fall, those are all good times to get on campus if you can. We're fortunate, we have quite a few colleges within an hour drive. So it could be, an easy day trip, or you could even see a couple of them in one day. You could also, if you're going on vacation somewhere and you know a school that's not too far off your path, and you can talk your folks into it, maybe stop off and see what it's like, schedule a tour. Of course, summertime is going to be a little bit less students on campus, so it might not feel like it will during the school year, but it at least gets you on campus to learn more about it and see what you think. If you can't do an actual physical visit on campus, there are lots of online virtual visits now because of what has been happening the last year. So you are able to go on and take one of their virtual tours. Some of the smaller colleges, I've heard, they'll even walk around the campus for you with a phone, on FaceTime, and show you around and answer questions. So there are ways to see campuses if you can't get there in person. SATs and ACTs. So between now and about October is when you want to be taking your SAT or ACT. The SAT is given here at Waynesboro High School. We have one coming up, I believe, or actually we just had our last one for this year, I believe. So we have May and June would be local in Stanton or Charlottesville. We will have the August test at Waynesboro as well as the October test. So you have time where you could take it with us on a weekend. You just have to go on the collegeboard.org website to register for that test. And you sign up for a location and a date. And then you can do some prep for it and get ready. Some schools are waiving the SAT again, where you might not have to do the SAT for a particular college. But right now they all are kind of all over the place. They're not telling us if for sure if it is waived or if they do want those scores. So if you're able to take the test and you have the time and the ability to take that test, we're saying go ahead and do it. Give it a try. See how your scores come back. If you're happy with it, that's great. If you want to retake it and do it one more time, you can do that as well. And they do take the higher score. So like if you score higher on English the first time, but higher on math the second time, they'll take the higher of both scores. And then you can have those sent off if your college is requiring it.
And we can direct you towards Khan Academy, has some good practice for free for those tests. And also if you're on free or reduced lunch, you can get a fee waiver. So make sure you take advantage of that if you are in fact on free or reduced lunch.
Yeah, and you just let your counselor know, and we'll give you the code to be able to sign up for the SAT on the website with a waiver code. You want to start narrowing down your list. So as you're doing this research, as you're visiting campuses and seeing things, you'll be narrowing down your list. Ms. Leach is going to talk more about that in a minute. You want to also think about any special application process that you might have to do. So if you're thinking about a military academy that has a different type of application, sometimes there are restricted majors. That means that you have to apply directly to a major or directly to a college. So you want to pay attention if there's something really specific that you want. Like some schools, you apply directly into nursing. Some you go as a general student, and then you apply to nursing after you've been there for a couple semesters or 2 years. So just kind of pay attention to those things if you're thinking about them. We'll go over our college and career worksheet with you individually at the beginning of senior year. In August and September, we meet with every single senior individually, and we go over everything that you have left to graduate, and we go over the college and career worksheet. And so that's something that you'll turn back into us at least 2 weeks ahead of your deadline for college. We'll talk more about deadlines in a minute. And you just want to give us that form so we know where you're applying, when you're applying, and what you need from us to send to your college. So we have it there on time. You'll start applications. You can start some of them early over the summer. Common App normally opens up around around July or August. And so some students like to get in and start working on their essays and things before they're in their high school classes again, and stressed with those. If they can get some of their general essays out of the way, they can. The FAFSA, that's going to be kind of once you know where you're applying and you're ready to apply, you'll also fill out the FAFSA. Ms. Wood will talk a little more about that on another slide about financial aid and scholarships coming up, but that's generally from October, November, and December is what we recommend for the FAFSA. You'll talk with teachers about recommendations. We'll also talk about that at the beginning of the school year. You want to touch base with them. It could be teachers from 10th grade, 11th grade. Pick somebody that you know will write you a good letter, a class that you were interactive, a class that you did well, and talk with them ahead of time and give them a couple weeks notice so they can write you a nice letter. Same thing with your counselors. We are happy to write recommendation letters. Some colleges require a counselor's recommendation letter, and some colleges it's optional. So you'll just communicate that with us with your college and career worksheet, and we're able to write a letter. And the reason we ask for that 2 weeks ahead is so we can take our time. I know I personally like to write it, let it sit for a little bit, come back, reread it so I can, find any mistakes or add things to it. So it just gives us time to focus on it for you instead of like at the last minute on the day of the deadline.
A couple of things about letters. First of all, I would work on a resume to give out to whoever you're going to send. You're going to ask for your recommendations, and it doesn't have to be a formal resume, just a list of things that you do and have done, and maybe some awards and things that you're involved in. You think everybody knows what you're doing, but they don't always know. But also, if a college says they only take one recommendation letter, don't send 5 because they're not going to read them. If they say they only take one, they're going to read the first one that arrives, the first one that comes into your file. So if they only take one, pick your best person, have them write it. Just be aware of that.
Yeah. And, when in doubt, contact your counselor, talk with us, ask Ms. Wood. If you have questions about things, send us an email, stop by if you're in person, give us a call. Visit the counseling office website and the Career Center website. We put all kinds of information up there, from weekly announcements to scholarships and deadlines and opportunities that are coming up. Check those out throughout the school year as well. It's going to be really helpful.
Keep your grades up.
That too.
Okay, so when you are thinking about actually choosing a college and figuring out how do I even decide where I want to apply, starting out is just kind of looking around, researching, Googling schools. There's a ton of schools in Virginia. There's so many to choose from. Or if you want to go out of state, that is also an option. But I would say don't knock the Virginia schools until you've checked them out and given them a shot. So you want to look and see if it's a reasonable match for your credentials, and that means, are you getting the right grades and test scores that kind of match up with what that school is looking for? We have some great resources for you to use where all of that information for schools is all in the same place. It's also all on College Board, so checking that out. Looking at each school and seeing what they offer. So if you already kind of have an idea of that career path that you want to take, maybe you don't need to know exactly what major you want, but seeing if they have some majors along that path that you are interested in. And then looking at the rigor of the curriculum. You don't have to go to the hardest school just because it's the hardest school. No, kind of think about what you're looking for and what kind of level of rigor you want. If you want that higher rigor, then go for those higher rigor schools. If not, you don't have to go for those if that's not what you feel comfortable in and what you feel like you can handle. Looking at just the size and the location of the school. Do you want a big school that's got a lot of students, big football games, lots of ground to travel, or do you want that smaller school where you're going to kind of know everyone as you're walking from class to class and get to know all of your classmates? Again, location, do you want to stay in state? Do you want to go to a certain area in Virginia? Are you looking for a city out in the country? You want to look out of state, figuring out what are you really looking for and where you want it to be. Expenses, money is a lot of times one of the biggest things. So keeping in mind how much it's going to cost, but also remembering that when you see those numbers, that is the starting point and it'll always go down from there. So as we talked, we're going to talk a little bit more about financial aid and scholarships. And specifically when you're looking at those private schools, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be paying what you see when you see that higher number at the private school. So don't get too much sticker shock looking at those, as there's a lot of options to bring that cost down. Facilities and housing. So what do they have available on campus? What sorts of housing is it? Is it going to be hall bathrooms? Is it going to be suite style? What things are available for living? As well as I think talk a little bit about food, but dining, and if you want a really good gym, checking out what's actually available at those schools. And then looking at the opportunities that are available at schools. Is study abroad something that you know right away that you're going to want to take advantage of? You'll want to make sure that that's available for you. Seeing what sorts of internships students are able to get while they're at the schools, what's available in the area. And then different activities and what research opportunities. That's really big, especially if you know that you're planning on going to more school after, as we were talking about career planning. If you know you're going to be going to grad school afterwards, you want to make sure that there's going to be some good research opportunities for you at your college. And then just social opportunities. What sorts of clubs and organizations do they have? Are you looking into Greek life? And what things are around in the area? So again, that kind of location. Do you want to go to somewhere near the beach where there's gonna be a lot of fun beach activities? Do you want that city experience? And just kind of thinking through, what are you really looking for? We put food on here because surprisingly enough, sometimes food is what wins students over when you're visiting those schools. And some schools are really known for their dining halls and have great food. I know when I was in high school, I was surprised. Some of the guys came back and they're like, yep, I'm going to this school because they have really good food. And then just thinking through some other personal factors, like what sort of supports do you need that are there? Just thinking through your own kind of personal lens of what you are looking for in that school and that experience, and what you need to feel like it's a good fit for you. And then after you've kind of done that exploring, actually narrowing down and making that list and figuring out which schools you want to apply to. So write down that list and figure out the priorities of kind of what we just went through. What is most important to you, and rank the schools based on those priorities. Whether it's money is going to be number one and figuring out what is going to get you the best price, whether it's the size of the school, location, figuring out that list and ranking them. And then do more research. It's always important to go back and keep looking up what is out there and information that is available. And really important, talk to the students and alumni there. The best people to get that information from and what the school is like are the people who went there. And so that goes along with visiting the schools and being able to actually, like, if you can, step onto campus and get that feel of what the atmosphere is like, what the students are like, and walking around. If you can't make it onto campus, virtual visits are a great option. But I really think that being able to step foot onto the campus and just walk around really can make the difference in whether or not you know that that school is for you. And important, if you are going to go visit and want to go on a tour, make an appointment. Don't just show up. It will make your visit go a lot more smoothly, and you'll get a lot more out of it if you make that appointment to actually go on a tour. And go with a list of questions. If there's certain things that you're really looking for, you want to make sure that you remember to ask them and don't get caught up in that whirlwind. And again, consider your financial aid packages and what it's going to bring those costs down to, and just always considering what is reasonable for you and what you are going to be able to afford. And then balancing your list. So everyone kind of talks about those reach schools, target, what's that all mean? So your reach school is going to be that school that's kind of a little bit above maybe where you are looking when you're trying to figure out like test scores, grades. It might be a little bit out of where you're at, but you are going to maybe want to apply to a couple of reach schools if that's the school that you really fall in love with. Target school is going to be the one that's right on that same line of what the school is looking for and where you're at. And then a quality safety. So not just a safety school that you think is going to be easy to get into just because it's easy, but a school that is what they're looking for might be a little bit below where you're at, but is still a really solid school. So we say apply to 1 to 2 of each of these to have a pretty good set of options when you're applying.
And that resource there that was on the other page, the ECMC college profiler. So this is a document that we have electronically. We also have physical copies of the ECMC opportunities booklet, and it's something we give out to our seniors and juniors. So if you're in the building and you want to swing by and get one, please do. We'll also have the link available if you want the digital copy. And it's a really nice resource that has all this information in it. It's easy to read. It looks nice. It's tailored for Virginia schools. So if you're thinking out of state, it might not have all of the information, but all the Virginia schools, public and private, are listed in this opportunities booklet, along with lots of other information about applying and choosing where to go. So it's a good resource to have.
Okay, so then once you've made your list and you know where you're applying, the application itself. So what are schools going to be looking at when you apply? One of the first things is they're going to look at the strength of your schedule. So that is looking at how rigorous of the classes that you're taking. You don't need to take every AP or dual enrollment available, but they want to see that you are challenging yourself. And they want to see that you're doing well in those classes. So trying out, if you haven't taken an AP yet, maybe trying out one in an area that you're already interested in is always a good option. And kind of knowing yourself. So how rigorous can you make your schedule while also still succeeding in those classes is going to be really important, because they are going to be looking at those grades. So not necessarily just the GPA in general, because GPA is all over kind of range depending on where you're from. They're really going to be looking at those individual grades in those classes and how well you're doing. Test scores versus test optional. So we kind of already mentioned this earlier. Some schools, most schools this past year went test optional. Some schools in general are always test optional. And so trying to decide whether or not to send those test scores. As we said, we recommend go ahead and taking those tests. And then if you end up applying to a school that's test optional, you can decide whether you feel like you did really well on those and still want to send them in, or go ahead and not send those test scores if you don't feel confident in them. They'll look at the recommendation letters. As Ms. Wood said, don't send 5 if they only ask for 1. They won't read them, but making sure that you're thinking through who you're going to ask for those recommendations now is going to be important.
And also choose people that know you, please.
Yeah.
So like, don't ask our senator to write you a letter, because unless you actually know them, that's not going to help. So make sure it's somebody that actually knows you and can write an honest recommendation for you.
Mm-hmm. And then essays, most applications are going to require at least 1 essay. And if not, they're going to normally at least recommend writing an essay, and go ahead and write those essays. And I would really recommend talking with your counselor and Ms. Wood on figuring out good topics to write for those essays. Normally they'll give you an option of different prompts to use. And your counselor and Ms. Wood have read plenty of essays on their of their own and know kind of what sets apart a really good one that'll help you stand out when you're writing those stories. My advice is to write a story and to not just write a bunch of information. Admission officers, they're reading tons of these essays over and over. So the more that you can really show them who you are as a person and tell them your story, the better it's going to be and the more you're going to stand out.
If you bring me an essay to read and it doesn't have a personal anecdote in it, I'm going to make you take it back.
And then extracurriculars. I know this year's been a little weird with COVID and trying to be in clubs and things. So I would say really as this next year progresses, try and get involved where you can. But also remember, it doesn't just have to be stuff through school. If you've been doing stuff outside of school, they'd love to see that as well. Seeing any volunteer work you've been doing. They just want to see that you're being involved and doing stuff more than just studying 24/7 and getting some other experiences. Some schools will look at class rank, some schools won't. It's not normally always the most important thing, but it does show up and they'll ask you for on the application. And then interviews, which is my kind of favorite thing. I actually worked in admission before at my undergrad, and my job was doing interviews for those students. And I think an interview, if they offer it, can really set you apart. Again, that's your time to go tell your story. It gives them a chance to put a face to that file that they're reading. And most of the time, if not all the time, an interview is only going to add to your application. It's not going to take away. It takes a lot for a student to bomb an interview because it's really just that chance to get to know the student more and just add and give the fuller picture of what's going on in that application of what they're seeing.
And we have a video on our YouTube channel by Ms. Leach about how to do a good virtual interview. Also, we do practice interviewing. So if you do have an interview coming up for a big school or even a big anything, we're happy to help you practice for that.
And I'll say something about GPA and just a little bit. So that people kind of get hung up on GPA as a number and they're very concerned about GPA. But what we have to remember is when you're applying to colleges that accept applications from people from all over the country, all over the state, all over the world, they're rescaling GPAs. So our GPA would be very different than a GPA from Northern Virginia or from Washington State or from, but I mean, other countries don't even have them. So they're able to have their own process internally, and they're able to look at your classes, and that's where all those other factors come in: your strength of schedule, your grades in your college prep classes. So don't get hung up on, you know, getting a 4.0 or 4.2 or 3.9. That's a good average, is a good way of knowing, like, I'm getting an average of an A or I'm getting an average of a B plus. But they do rescale things, and that's not the most important factor that they look at when they're reviewing your application. So types of admission, there are different types of admission, and these are what you'll want to pay attention to as you're making your application plan. Early decision, these are going to be usually pretty early on in the fall. They are also binding. So you're applying to one school early decision, and you're signing, and I will sign, and your other counselors would sign, saying that we've talked about it, and we know that if you get accepted to this school, that you will rescind your applications to all of your other schools, and you'll plan to attend. I think the only time I've seen somebody not be able to do it was when that school did not give them any financial aid, and so it was not financially viable for them to go there. But otherwise, if everything else lines up, this is your number one top pick school. If you know you're getting in, you're going, then you can apply early decision. If you know that your family is a Virginia Tech family and you are going there and that's where you're going, and if you get in, that's it, then that's fine. And we can talk through that. Some students do use it strategically if they're trying to apply to like an Ivy League or a very prestigious college that has a very selective application process. That early decision does put them in a little bit of an advantage because it's a smaller applicant pool. And sometimes if you don't get in as early decision, you can get deferred to regular and then reevaluated. So it just kind of depends on your preference. And if you are all in on that school, then that's great. If you want to have a choice when it comes down to it, and you want to think about it and look through all the options and visit more schools, then that's fine too. Early action would be your choice if you want to make have options after you get into multiple schools. Early action is my favorite because it is early. You're applying in October, November, December, and you'll find out usually by January, sometimes February, depending on the school. And so you'll kind of get those acceptance letters in early. Then you can be focusing on your scholarships and your financial aid. And then, when it comes down to it, you have until April 30th typically to make your commitment to whatever school you choose to go to. So early action is non-binding, early decision is binding. Regular decision is going to be generally in January or so, and you might not find out an acceptance decision until March or sometimes the very beginning of April. Priority deadlines, that's going to be things that you want to, like if you're applying to those individual programs, they might have a priority deadline, or if you are applying to a scholarship within a specific college or to something like that. So sometimes they have a priority deadline, so it's not set in stone, but it does give you an edge if you go ahead and apply by those deadlines. Rolling admission, these schools, they can start accepting right away. So a lot of times it's your smaller schools. Some of our state schools might do it, some as well. And so you might apply in August and get that acceptance letter in September. And if that's where you want to go and it all lines up, then you could know where you're going. Occasionally I have that happen. Or, okay, I at least have that school accepted and I can think about it, apply to other schools, and then make my decision later. So there's really no bad thing about a rolling admissions. It's just you can apply anytime you're ready once the application has opened up.
And I tell students to get a deadline in your head of when you want to get all your applications done. And it seems like a stressful thing. I personally think December 1st is a really good date to set. Even if your applications are not due until maybe February 1st, because it gets everything off your plate. And I will tell you that once you're done those applications and they're all in, the relief you will feel will be huge. And then you can start really focusing on your scholarships, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so I want to talk real briefly about community college. I work with Blue Ridge Community College, so I know very intimately all of the ins and outs of the community college system in Virginia. I can help students with Blue Ridge or Piedmont, or really any community college in Virginia that they're looking at. Every once in a while, I'll have a student that's going to move to the beach and go to Tidewater, or move to Northern Virginia and live with a family member or something. And I'll help them with that too. So what are the advantages of going to community college? So a lot of people think community college is just the extension of high school. It's not. That's definitely not the case. It's a lot different. The classes are going to be a little different. People are going to be different that you see, especially at Blue Ridge, because you're really mixing it up with the students up from Harrisonburg and Rockingham County. And so there's a whole very diverse population at the community college, which is really great. You're going to save a lot of money. For example, if you go to pay for, colleges, you can count college tuition based on credit hour. And so at Blue Ridge, it costs about $180 a credit hour, just out of pocket costs. Obviously, most of our students end up getting either financial aid and or scholarships, and so they don't even pay that much. But if you're comparing it to, say, JMU, which is actually one of the more affordable state schools, which is about a little under $600 a credit hour. So it's a lot different price. So you're going to save money. Transfer students. So if you go to community college, there are lots of things at community college you can do: associate's degrees, certificates that you do not have to transfer. You can finish at community college. But if you are looking at community college as an option to go for a few years and then transfer to a 4-year school to graduate with a bachelor's degree, then you're going to graduate with the same degree as everybody who went to that school for 4 or 5 years. You will actually, if you finish the associate's degree for transfer at Blue Ridge or at Piedmont or wherever you are, you'll actually have 2 degrees. So when you go to put your applications out at places, you'll show that on your resume. If you're a little bit nervous about going to 4-year college, a lot of students like to go to community college because it just kind of eases them in. So we can set you up so you're going part-time if that's what you want to do. Pretty much everybody at community college works. So it's not unusual to be in a class with almost everybody has a part-time job outside of school. If you want to go to a college that you're not quite academically up to par where you need to be, going to community college gets you the opportunity to improve your transcript. So especially if you do that associate's degree and transfer, they don't even look at your high school transcript. They're only going to look at your college transcript. But definitely, if that's an issue, then community college is a good opportunity to do that. And it's also very flexible. So you can take classes online, you can take classes in person, hopefully next year. Right now, that's the plan. And you can live at home, you can live in an apartment. There's a lot of different options for community college. It's very, very flexible. And I am very happy to answer any and all questions about community college anytime parents or students want to reach out to me about that. So the FAFSA is the free. Remember that, because you don't ever pay to fill out an application for scholarships or aid. It's the free application for federal student aid. So this is the application the government puts out for students to evaluate how much they think as a family you can afford to pay for college. It is what colleges use as their measuring stick, and it's very important to fill it out. And I'm going to touch on that in a few minutes. So right now they use what's called prior year, which I love that. They need to come up with a different name for that. But anyway, the year before, when you're going to college is when you would be using your taxes. So this year for you all, that will be for the 2020 taxes. So the FAFSA opens on October 1st. So most people have done their 2020 taxes by then. I recommend doing your FAFSA pretty early in the game if you can, just because, again, it gets it off your plate. It is not scary. It is not hard. I actually did a FAFSA with a student yesterday, and it took us about 20 minutes, and he was like, "Whoa, I'm done? That was nothing. I thought it was going to be really long." It's very easy. So don't be scared of it. We do have a grasp advisor that works here at Waynesboro High School, and she is awesome and will help you step by step as a family or as a student through the FAFSA. So if you need that help, she is there for you. I also have a lot of experience doing FAFSA, and I'm happy to help if her schedule doesn't fit and you need somebody a different time or something. So the main thing that the FAFSA the federal money that the FAFSA gives out is Pell Grants, and actually the other thing is federal loans. But Pell Grants are grants that are given to students that have a high need, and they're up to, it depends on the year, but generally speaking, it's a little over $6,000 if you get a full Pell Grant. So the reason I put that on this list is I want to point out the federal government does not give enough money away to cover the cost of college unless you go to community college. So even if you're at the highest need level, they only cover up to about $6,500. It depends on the year. They change it every year. But that's, for example, let's see, I can't think of it. Let me think. JMU this year was what, 23,000 with living on campus. So that gives you an idea of how much the total cost is. Now, there are other things available, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute, but just keep that in mind, students. You know, you want to be realistic and think about how much things are going to cost and how you're going to pay for them.
And even if you don't think you will qualify for any kind of federal aid, like if your folks make too much money or whatever, go ahead and apply anyway, because this is how your college will measure your need and have a snapshot of your finances, so they can give you scholarship money, and even sometimes local scholarships will need it as well.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, a lot of the local scholarships require the FAFSA, so you have to fill it out. But also, I have kids in college, and one year I didn't fill it out, and I did it late, and I sent it in, and I ended up qualifying for a grant. I had no idea. Well, my daughter did. No idea she was qualified for this particular grant. It was through the college. So, you know, and it was a academic grant, but she wouldn't have gotten it without our sending the FAFSA in. So please don't not do it, even if you think you won't qualify. Grants and scholarships are the money that you're looking for. There are loans available, and I am happy to sit down with any parents who want to learn more about subsidized and unsubsidized loans and Parent Plus loans and all that kind of stuff. I'm happy to go over that with you. Our grasp advisor would be as well. But the kind of money you're looking for is the kind that you don't have to pay back, and that's grants and scholarships. So there are lots of grants and scholarships available from schools, as Whitney was saying, Ms. Bleach was saying. Private schools are very generous with their discounts and their grants and whatnot. Usually it's based on your SAT and GPA, but there are lots of other things they give money for. Like if you visit campus, they'll give you some money. If you participate in a virtual online thing, they'll give you money sometimes. If you know an alumni, they can nominate you to get money. There's lots and lots and lots of things you can get money for private schools. Public schools also, like I was saying, give out grants. Blue Ridge gives out grants and scholarships. I definitely, if you're going to Blue Ridge, you 100% need to fill out the scholarship application, because usually there's a lot of money they can't give away. We also have a very extensive, if I may say so myself, the best local scholarship list in the whole area. Thank you very much.
That's very true.
Which is on our website. It is very long, and very cumbersome. And I have students all the time ask me if they can print it, and you can't print it. It's too long. It's an Excel spreadsheet, but you can go on there and there are links on there for every scholarship. So you can look them up and check them out. There are scholarships for everything you can think of on that website. And it's on the school website. There's a direct link to the WHS scholarship list. Juniors, you can go ahead and start looking at it. Most of the stuff is for seniors. What I would recommend for juniors that are interested in going ahead and starting scholarships is go to College Board and start with the Opportunity Scholarship. And they have some steps you can do, and they have scholarships that they draw for every month, and you're going to do all those steps anyway, probably. So you might as well be in the drawings for the scholarships they do. Also, at the end of this talk, ECMC, which is the people that published that book that Mr. Bailey was talking about, they're doing a drawing just for us for scholarships. So I'm going to put that website on the email that I send out about to share this video. So make sure you do fill that out as well. And like I was saying, ECMC has a ton of really good information available. So that's all the money stuff.
Some other important things to think about. So NCAA, that's if you are thinking that you want to play on an athletic team in college for a Division I or Division II team. And that's where you need to go ahead and register. You should do that now as an athlete so that you can get on the list of the recruiters and the coaches for the different colleges. Some of the Division III teams, that's a little bit different process, and that'll usually just be with you contacting the coach, or if the coaches are coming to town to recruit, they would be contacting you.
So you have to go to the clearinghouse and set up an eligibility, do all this. So do you have to do that for Division III too? Or just
I was under the impression that it's just for D1 and D2.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. But you might want to go ahead and do it just 1 and 2. And then it tells, their page is very, very good and has lots of really good information. So if you're into sports, and I will also say real briefly, if you do want to play a sport in college, there is a way for you to play a sport in college. It just may not be on TV. It might be
your screen is not sharing.
It's not showing. Okay, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It might. Is it sharing now?
Yeah.
Okay. It might not be on TV. It might be just playing like you do in high school, or it could be a club sport, or there's all different kinds of ways to play in college that are different. Okay. So we will definitely send that information out, with the ECMC book in it, and I'll send it out to the students. If anyone is interested in getting that directly, you're welcome to contact myself or Mr. Bailey, and our emails are available on the website. Like I said, lots of really good information. Does anybody have any questions that we can answer?